Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3, Episode 5, 4,722 hours. This is, without a doubt, one of the best episodes Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has ever had. I think obviously the show picked up in the last season, especially after all the Captain America stuff, and it's like, oh, there's tons of Hydra agents within S.H.I.E.L.D. That's when the show really flew off the handlebars, and it did it in the best way possible. Now we have the Inhumans and stuff like that, and it's really, really fun. It's a great show that has really grown since the first season, and despite all of that really amazing stuff, this episode about one character that gets sent to another galaxy, a whole galaxy. This is one of the best episodes. It's probably the best episode that the show has ever had, and really there are like maybe I think 6 characters in the whole thing. We have Will, I guess it was 3 people he was with, so maybe there's 7 the whole episode. It was like Will, the 3 astronauts he was with. There's Simmons. Fitz is at the end of the episode, and technically the beginning because they show the end of the previous season. And then we have whatever this creature is, which does take a physical form, which is probably the craziest thing. I really thought for sure it was just like sort of almost just an omnipresent sort of thing. It's just there, and it's obviously inside of sort of the dust cloud, and it's just sort of a thing that's just there, and it happens. It just affects you, and that's all there is to it. But wherever this madness is, this creature, it's an actual thing. It shows up as real things, and it showed up at the end. It showed up as an astronaut. It almost seemed like sort of a zombie moment where it was like an astronaut in like a really messed up suit, and it had like the cutlass. It had like a cutlass from one of the people sent back from like the 1400s or whatever. And it was really weird seeing that, which I feel like they're going to give us an answer because they introduced something that, even though it may not end up affecting like the main story arc, I need an answer as to what that thing is, because it's not just like, oh, this is just some crazy thing that just, a sandstorm comes by, it's just the planet or whatever. It's something on this planet. Like, it has a physical form. Like when they're trying to go and get to the portal and like shoot the message through it, when they get there, it's like 100 meters instead of like the 30 meters it was supposed to be or something like that. And Will says that it's the planet trying to stop them. So I don't know if it really is the planet or if there's something on the planet that can sort of sense their intentions or what. I don't understand it at all. But I love it. Like, as a villain for this episode, it's insanely creepy. It's very horror movie. Like, it was very interesting. And I guess it fit perfectly, with that. Technically, that's kind of like the Halloween episode. It was such an interesting idea for the show, and it was just like this thing affects the planet. Like, the planet can kind of reshape itself to separate them. And of course, they're in this little bunker that they've been in the whole time, coming up with this plan and stuff. And maybe that's all it takes. Maybe it really is the planet itself. And I don't really know. I don't know. Like, it was just very interesting. We got introduced, like, the little sort of underwater thing that Simmons had to deal with. She's able to take care of herself when it came to that. Like, the second time, she was ready for it. And it took her down, but she fought, and, she took her time underwater and popped up with an even bigger tentacle, I guess. So it was definitely an amazing episode, just watching her journey, where we get the ending of the last season as the opening to this episode, and she gets sucked up, and it's like, okay, and it counts down all of her time, or I guess counts up her time, and it was an amazing experience watching that happen, because I was wondering how they were going to do it. I was like, oh, okay, we're going to get, I thought for sure it was going to be like a back and forth thing. It was going to be, this is her story here, here's a little bit of the present, here's this part of the past again, back and forth, back and forth. But this 100% flashback was without a doubt the best way they could have done this episode. And I love how it all played out. I love the opening for sure, because that's when I knew that it was just going to be about Simmons and her time on this random planet. Because when she was going through, and I think it was after it was about 2 weeks or so, That's when the title screen comes up. They do like a big landscape shot, and it just fades in. It's her just walking, and it just fades in, and it says Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I was like, this is gonna be the episode. Like, this is just, the whole thing is this. And I knew it from, like, once that was it, I was like, that's what's gonna happen. And I loved every moment of this episode. Her counting up, them counting up the time, and her figuring out the hours, and realizing, that there's no sun. Watching her kind of descend into sort of like the island madness kind of thing, where she's completely alone, and she's, recording things on her phone to Fitz, and like, she makes the little sort of rock figure that's supposed to stand in for Fitz and stuff, and she's just walking around. She experiences the sandstorm for the first time, and just seeing her experience this island, and she's just dealing with things, and it was just so fun to watch that happen. Like, it was incredibly entertaining. Like, it was unbelievably entertaining to watch this entire episode. And then we meet Will. Like, she actually gets put into this trap, and it's like, okay, so there's another human on this planet. And we find out that he's been there for 14 years. He was sent to the planet by NASA, who at one point had the monolith. And he goes there with 3 astronauts. They succumb to the madness. They all get killed. They either kill themselves, or he has to kill them. And then he's left alone for over a decade, just by himself. There's nothing he can do. It's just, he's there, and he just has to live. He just has to survive. He has to survive the madness. He has to survive this planet and everything that's happened. There's like the no-fly zone, like the place that he will not go, because it seems to be almost like a trigger for the madness. Like, it can happen anywhere, but if you go there, it's almost like instantaneous, where it'll, I guess, kind of sense you in a weird way. So we get this experience from him, where he's been trapped there for so long, and everything that happened with him. And of course, he and Simmons end up forming a relationship. They have their moment where it's like, we can finally get back home. They figure out the trajectory. We find out that the portal actually opens all the time. The portal actually opens, every, say, couple of weeks or whatever. You just have to know where it's going to be, and then you're good to go. You can just hop in, boom, you're back home. And that's really it. The portal shows up in the same place, but the Earth moves, well, not the Earth, but the planet itself moves around. So it shows up, seemingly it shows up in different places, but actually it's in the same sort of, it's like it's in the same dimensional plane every single time, but it's the planet itself that's constantly rotating that makes it seem like it's just jumping all over the place. And they get their answer. It's like, we're going to make this move. We're going to go. We're going to get to this thing. And even if we can't, we'll send a message in a bottle. This is how we're going to get out of here. And even that fails at the end. It goes away just at the split second. The bottle shatters, and they don't know what to do. They have no more power for the computer. They can't figure out any more of the calculations, which I think is pretty interesting. I feel like Simmons could have totally figured that out, even without the math and stuff. But at the same time, I guess that is a ton of algorithms and things like that, because they have to figure out all these really advanced mathematical equations for this new planet, and how it rotates, and speed, and all this stuff, which the computer probably did, boom, got it. So, that's like nothing, but it would take them forever to do it. So I guess it does still kind of make a lot of sense that it wouldn't be like, oh, well, I'll just write some stuff down and figure it out myself, because she probably wouldn't know all those equations. She has, like, chemistry and biology, so it's not exactly math-based. It is, obviously, but it's not, like, figure out a brand new, galaxy's, rotation and stuff like that. So it was pretty crazy. And then they end up together after that. That's when they have their moment of becoming sort of a unit, which probably didn't work out for Fitz too well. Like, he probably wasn't exactly excited to hear that part of the story, but we now know why Simmons has to go back. She cares for this guy. She cares for Will, because they kept each other sane. Like, they were the two humans on this entire planet. Like, there's 2 humans, this crazy underwater thing that they can attack, and whatever this madness is that's on the planet. So she has to go back to get him. He does use his final bullet to try to get her to safety. We do find out that he is alive at the end of this episode, and he has the he gets to see the sun, and it's just like, well, that's his moment, and he's got nothing in his gun. He just he pulls the chamber, and then he just tosses the gun, and he's going back home, and they're just gonna have to figure out how to get to him, and now they're gonna have to figure out how to get to him without the monolith. They're gonna have to find a way to get this guy off this planet without the device that sends them to the planet itself. So I'm not sure what to expect, but I just know that this is an amazing episode, without a doubt. I feel like this is just the best episode the show's ever had. I really do think it's the best episode. I really loved the last season finale. Like, it was a great, great episode. But then there are just episodes like this where you have your finales where it's just like, this is everything's culminating to this one moment. But sometimes you just have an episode like this where it doesn't have to be a culmination of things. It just has to be this one moment in time that's done unbelievably well. And it's just the solitude of two characters and their bond and how they become a unit, and why that unit needs to become one again, and why Simmons has to go back to save the man that pretty much she loves. So I don't know how they're gonna play with what they introduced in this episode, but I want an answer to this monster, the madness, whatever this thing is. I want an answer to it. I don't know if Will, even if they do end up saving him, what is going to become of his character, if he'll become a main part of the cast, or how that's going to play out. I like his character. I think his character is well acted. I would love to see how that plays out, because we would totally have a character, because 14 years, like they talk about the phone, and it's like 100, or whatever gigabytes in just her phone, and it like blew his mind, because that happened. It's like, just in the past 14 years, the past 10 years, we've had insane advancements in technology, and that's a lot. Like, that is a huge thing. So I'd love to see how they play around with that. If they bring him now, it's basically like time traveling. It's like people, and there was a whole show about this, and I'm pretty sure it was just called Life. It was an old show that unfortunately got canceled, but it was about a guy that went to prison, and he went to prison for like 10 years, and I think it was early. Yeah, I think it was like 10 years, and it was like in 98. I think, he went to prison like 98 and came out like 2008 or something like that. And it was like, that's a totally different world that you're living in. Technology is so different, and it seems like such a small time span, and it kind of is. Obviously in the grand scheme of things, it is, but there's so much difference in technology. So they could totally bring in a new element with this character, where he's just experiencing a world that he never knew, and trying to reclaim the life that he had before. His family and stuff like that. He wasn't with anyone, but of course, if you're born, you have parents, or so stuff like that, I think would be an interesting idea. And who knows, maybe this madness could follow him back, and we do get a new villain. We aren't only gonna have Slash. We're gonna have this new, weirder, sort of villain, really. So I'm really looking forward to it. I love this episode, without a doubt. I really do think it's the best episode that the series has had, by far. Like, there's been great episodes. Love the finale. The finale was amazing to me, and this still blew that out of the water. It was just like a great emotional episode, and just the way everything played was just amazing to me. So, of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I want to get your speculations on what this madness really is. Like, how come it can take the form of, why did, it took the form of an astronaut. It could have taken the form of anything. It could have been Fitz, but maybe it couldn't have been that. Maybe, because I think when they first show it, it just looks like a person in a cloak, from what I remember. I mean, it was obviously not 100% visible, but it basically was like a silhouette. So it was really just a person standing there in like this crazy dust storm, and they just had a hood on. It was just a person in a cloak, but at the end, it was someone or something in an astronaut outfit with a cutlass. So it can take physical forms, and maybe it is something that is actually physical, and it can, it had those costumes, and it dug those people up. Maybe, who knows? I mean, there's who knows how many people have been sent to this random planet over the centuries. So there's all sorts of possibilities for how it could look, I would assume, but it's very interesting. It affects people mentally, and it makes them hurt themselves. But considering it had the colors, it seems as though it could easily hurt people as well physically, and not deal with the mental stuff. It'll just attack you and kill you. So I want to know your speculation. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.